Iran and the United States leaned into gunboat diplomacy on Thursday as nuclear talks between the nations hung in the balance, with Tehran holding drills with Russia and the Americans bringing another aircraft carrier closer to the Mideast. According to Associated Press, the Iranian drill and the arrival of the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier near the mouth of the Mediterranean Sea underscore the tensions between the nations. Iran earlier this week also launched a drill that involved live fire in the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow opening of the Persian Gulf through which a fifth of the world's traded oil passes. The drill Thursday saw Iranian forces and Russian sailors conduct operations in the Gulf of Oman and the Indian Ocean, Iran's state-run IRNA news agency reported. The drill will be aimed at upgrading operational coordination as well as exchange of military experiences, IRNA added. China had joined the security belt drill in previous years, but there was no acknowledgement it participated in this round. In recent days, a vessel that appeared to be a Starogashchi-class Russian corvette had been seen at a military port in the Iranian city of Bandar Abbas. Iran also issued a rocket fire warning to pilots in the region, suggesting they plan to launch anti-ship missiles in the exercise. Meanwhile, tracking data showed the Ford off the coast of Morocco in the Atlantic Ocean midday Wednesday, meaning the carrier could transit through Gibraltar and potentially station in the eastern Mediterranean with its supporting guided missile destroyers. Having the carrier there could allow American forces to have extra aircraft and anti-missile power to potentially protect Israel and Jordan should a conflict break out with Iran. The U.S. similarly placed warships there during the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip to protect against Iranian fire. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said Wednesday there are many reasons and arguments one could make for a strike against Iran and warned Tehran would be wise to make a deal with President Donald Trump. According to Associated Press, Leavitt made the comments a day after Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, led the U.S. delegation at the latest round of indirect talks, held inside the residence of the Omani envoy to Geneva. Speaking at the White House briefing, Leavitt said there was a little bit of progress made during Tuesday's talks but underscored the two sides are still very far apart on some issues. Trump, who scrapped an earlier nuclear agreement with Iran during his first term, has repeatedly threatened to use force to compel Iran to agree to constrain its nuclear program. Iran has said it would respond with an attack of its own. Trump has also threatened Iran over the killing of protesters. Asked if the president is willing to let negotiations play out further, and how much time he will give them before taking military action, Leavitt declined to comment, saying only that diplomacy is always his first option. Leavitt was also asked about the Vatican's decision not to join Trump's Board of Peace, which the press secretary called deeply unfortunate. The Secretary of State for the Vatican, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, said the United Nations was the appropriate institution to monitor the currently shaky ceasefire agreement and rebuilding of Gaza, not Trump's new board. I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join, she said. Trump will be joined on Thursday in Washington by representatives from some of the more than 24 countries that have agreed to join his Board of Peace, an inaugural meeting that will focus on reconstruction and building an international stabilization force for war-battered Gaza.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience, as always. Garrett.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for military secrets here, but can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people, of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people, and that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
As the U.S. military builds up around Iran, is President Trump coordinating war plans with Israel so that if he does decide to strike, that Israel will be a part of those strikes?
Look, I don't have any specifics on the president's recent conversations with Israel. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu was just here at the White House last week or the week before. But again, with respect to Iran, there was some progress made yesterday. There are still a lot of details to discuss, and we'll continue to see how this plays out. The United States government, of course, is always in close communication and correspondence with the state of Israel, and that starts right at the top with the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu themselves.
Is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little further? I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks, and so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Caroline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the president of the United States from up here.
And then just one more on the shutdown.
Thank you, Caroline. The Vatican announced earlier today that they would not be joining the Board of Peace initiatives over concerns that it could potentially compete with the United Nations over handling crisis conflicts. What's the White House's response to that?
Yeah, look, we saw that. I think it's deeply unfortunate. I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join. Because again, the Board of Peace is overseeing the reconstruction of a territory that has been plagued with violence, with bloodshed, with poverty for far too long. And this president has a very bold and ambitious plan and vision to rebuild and reconstruct Gaza, which is well underway because of the Board of Peace. This is a legitimate organization where there are tens of member countries from around the world, and we think that's an unfortunate decision.
Caroline.